Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Hi, everybody. It's Donna, and you know what? It is summertime, and all kinds of things can happen in the summertime that otherwise might seem impossible. And I want to explain to you all the benefits that summertime can offer you, and why it's so much fun to understand the wisdom behind all of this. Because when you learn something, maybe something perhaps you didn't know, and then you apply it to your life, it really creates this wonderful effect on your life that allows you to receive benefits that otherwise you would have neglected or ignored or not known they were there. So I love helping people understand all the wonderful benefits you can get out of summertime that can help your body heal, that can make you healthier and happier all year long. And it's the perfect time to get healthy is in the summertime. So did you know that there is a reduced chance of heart attacks in the summertime? Researchers studied 11,000 people who had heart attacks in the UK over a period of 9 years. And their survival rate increased by 19% if the heart attack occurred in the summertime. And this indicated that you are less likely to die of a heart attack in the summer than in the winter. And the researchers believe there was the high levels of vitamin D that you get in the summertime, which is synthesized by the sun. And it was also thought to play a protective part in those who suffer from heart attack. And not only that, it has so many protective benefits that I really want to get into this because there's been so many studies done about this. And they all show that the further north you live, the more cancers arise in those types of areas. Think cloudy states like Vermont, New Hampshire, Delaware, Wyoming, Oregon, Montana, Iowa, Washington State, Utah, and Maine. They have the highest rates of cancers, and they're quite high. They're in the 30% and 26% higher rates of cancer than those who live in the southern states. And the researchers published this in the British Journal of Dermatology, and they show that the sun is likely nothing more than a scapegoat in the development of melanoma. There's a lot of people that say you get melanoma from the sun, and it's been tested like 200 times to not be true. And actually what is happening to people is they've discovered that they have low levels of vitamin D in their blood, and it's making them susceptible to all types of cancers. And vitamin D is really interesting. It's a steroid hormone that it really influences virtually every cell in your body. And it's easily one of nature's most potent cancer fighters. And if the sun is your source of vitamin D, even if you just get a little bit of sun every day, even if it's just 15 minutes, your skin will synthesize vitamin D sulfate, which is vitamin D3. And this form of vitamin D is water soluble and can travel freely in your bloodstream. Unlike oral vitamin D3 supplements, they can't do that. They can't float freely. They have to go through the gastrointestinal tract and be digested, and it doesn't really work the same way. And your organs can convert the vitamin D in your bloodstream into calcitriol, which is the hormone that is activated. It's the activated version of vitamin D. And your organs then use it to repair damage, and including damage from cancer cells and tumors. And vitamin D's protective effect against cancer works in many, many ways. And it's interesting that when you get some sun into your skin, and say 15 minutes a day, whatever, it will last in your body for about, if you get it on a regular basis, like 3 months, and then your vitamin D levels get depleted. And that's what happens to a lot of people who have long winters. They lose a lot of the vitamin D that is stored in their tissues that helps keep them safe from cancers and from other things too. It doesn't just prevent that. We're going to get into that later on in this broadcast. But vitamin D's protective effects against cancer works in multiple ways. First of all, it helps to destroy the mutated cells before they become cancerous, and before they can even reproduce and make more cancer cells. It kind of halts that process. And what it also does is it helps promote the growth of new blood vessels from the pre-existing ones that were there, which is really important in the transition of dormant tumors that are turning cancerous. You want them to make new cells that are healthy. And there's all kinds of research showing that the further north you live, the more cancers arise in that area, and that it equates to the lack of sun exposure and getting proper vitamin D that flows freely through the bloodstream. When I was a little girl, we spent a lot of time in the summertime at my grandma's house, which was in an island in Nova Scotia. And they lived on this little island, and it was just really a cool place. And I can remember my grandma talking to my mom and how all the women on the island would get cancer, but the men would never get the cancers. And it always baffled everybody because they didn't understand why so many women were getting it and not the men. Well, years later, I was talking to my mom about the sun and vitamin D and how people further north don't get out in the sun. And then a light bulb went off in my head. I wonder if the men didn't get the cancer on the islands that the women did because the men were fishermen and they were always in the sun out on their boats getting fish. Almost everybody on the island was a fisherman. And they were always out on the boats catching the fish, even when it was cold. And the men on the island had that ruddy complex from the sun exposure and from the wind. And they always seemed like they always had a sunburn always, even in the winter. And those vitamin D, stores in your body for 3 months. And even if you just get it on your face, you're getting vitamin D. And that's how I think that could possibly be a reason why the men didn't get the cancer, but the women did. Because the women were indoors and they weren't out on the boats. And in the news, just lately, they have found another connection to cancer, and this is popping up everywhere. And first it was one story, and now it's like 3 or 4 stories. And they found that supposedly the cancers, these melanomas, aren't coming from the sun; they're coming from the sunscreens people are using, and the chlorinated pools. And they have a chemical reaction when the two interact, which in turn can cause the cells to mutate and turn cancerous in some people. And it's more about the chemicals we're putting on our body and not the sun that's causing it, is what these studies are all saying. And they're even banning sunscreen in certain areas of the world where it's hurting the coral reefs. And I wasn't sure if that was I think it might have been Australia, that they might be banning sunscreens because it's causing so much harm to the environment too. Now, here's an interesting thing that you might not have known, but summertime has an effect on diabetes. And doctors have found that different times of year there's an increased rate of insulin-dependent diabetes. And studies show that this insulin-dependent type, there's 2 different types. There's type 1 and there's type 2. And type 1 is when your pancreas stops making the beta cells that create insulin, so your body's not making insulin anymore. Whereas type 2 is very different in that it's really more of an environmental thing where you've either stressed out your body with your diet and lack of exercise, that you have too much insulin in your blood stream and it can't get a hold of it. It's like blocking it. But this study was done on insulin-dependent diabetes, so the type 1. And they showed that this form of diabetes is less common to occur in hot countries near the equator. And one theory for this is that the amount of daylight may influence either insulin action or the cocktail of hormones that regulates insulin production, including the vitamin D. People tend to eat different in the summertime and especially consume more fruits and vegetables, but they've also noticed an important effect on insulin levels. And we're going to talk about that some more in a minute here. Another thing that happens is skin conditions get better in the summertime. Controlled exposure to the sun can have a very therapeutic effect on skin compliance, such as, acne, psoriasis, eczema, dermatitis. All of these different skin things seem to get better in the summertime. And Dr. Ian White, who is a consultant and a dermatologist at St. Thomas Hospital in London, said that many skin disorders are caused by an oversensitive immune system. And there's something about the rays from the sun that reduces this sensitivity. And they don't know what causes it, but it does seem and appears to get better across the board. And I've seen that many hands with people who write me emails. They too have noticed a difference in the summertime, that their skin gets better. And it's better to walk around in daylight rather than sitting directly exposed to the sun for length of times where you want to be careful not to get burned. And the therapeutic effects of the sun occur just below the levels of the skin turning red. So most fair-skinned people can do about 15 minutes of direct exposure before their skin starts to turn pink. My sister had psoriasis for years, and she would tell me that it always got better in the summertime. And she lived up north in Chicago, and she didn't get a lot of sun, and so vitamin D was very scarce for her. And they also have found that your immune system is overreacting to things too, but your liver can also cause some problems if it's clogged or if it's stressed. And lack of vitamin D and a body that's stressed out, doesn't have the right microbiome in it, can also really change your skin, because your skin is a reflection of what's going on the inside of you. And I have had many people write me emails and express to me that their eczema just cleared up. I had somebody come in my class, and she was a nurse, and she had been teaching some of her colleagues how to make kombucha and cultured vegetables. And she had one guy that was covered in head to toe with eczema. I mean, really badly. He had breakouts of it all the time. And she taught him how to make kombucha and cultured vegetables, and he found it completely went away. But what he did find was that when he quit drinking the kombucha, which is also very wonderful for assisting the liver to remove chemicals and pesticides and toxins from your body, that if he went a couple weeks without it, it would come back. I think it was like a week. He would notice he'd started getting spots again. And so he said it was his food like medicine that just really changed his life. And I've heard this from several people. Other people have expressed to me that kefir was the one that helped them. And it's such a different thing depending on your unique situation, your unique, microbiome in your gut, what your body is needing. But I did see people tell me that it got better when they started ingesting cultured foods, that it really made a difference for them. And when you have foods, especially like kefir, kombucha, cultured vegetables, which I call the trilogy, kombucha is great for assisting the liver and removing things. Kefir is great for supplying bacteria, 50 plus different strains of bacteria that your body needs to help it communicate effectively. And 50% of your detoxification goes on in your gut. So kefir is wonderful for that. And I've had people tell me, especially with children, that kefir worked really well on children. And I've had several people tell me that it was the kombucha. And then I had somebody else tell me that it was kombucha and cultured vegetables. So it really depends on what you're missing, what your diet needs, and just about your daily life. But these foods can help you take the stress off your liver, cleanse your lymph system, and restore your gut flora. And combine this with 15 minutes of sunshine, and you have a really winning combo. Okay, now I want to talk about different foods that are fresh fruits and veggies that I eat in the summertime. But I want to explain why you should eat these foods. Not just, everybody knows some of these foods are good for you, but I want to explain why they're good for you. And because I love the knowledge of understanding why I'm eating what I'm eating. And I don't just eat things that are good for me just because I know they're good for me intellectually. I eat them because they taste good. But I love knowing the wisdom behind it. And one of my favorite foods is berries. And right now I am eating buckets of strawberries because they're in season here. And they just taste so good. There's a place that's near me, and it's in a valley. It's called Puma Valley. And they have these strawberries there. And honest to goodness, I have never tasted strawberries like I have here. And I mean, they taste like they got sugar on them. They're so good. And their strawberries taste better than any place else I've ever had. And it's something with the soil, the cool nights, they're just fantastic. And strawberries have huge, strong anti-inflammatory properties. And there was a nurse at the health study. It was done by Brigham and Women's Hospital and Harvard Medical School. And the Harvard School of Public Health really had a big study done with 70-year-old women who were found to have reduced cognitive loss when they consumed 1 to 2 servings of strawberries per week. And that's about a cup or 1 to 2 cups a week. And they found that these women's brain capacity improved, and it has a lot of vitamin C in it. Strawberries have more vitamin C than oranges, but they also can help regulate your blood sugar. They have lots of fiber that your microbiome eats that makes them grow and multiply. But they also are low in sugar too, because they're not huge carbohydrates, but they're so good for you. And so many of my afternoons are filled with strawberries. I do, oh my gosh, I can't tell you the recipes that I make with strawberries. It's crazy. I had a big bowl this morning. I put it in my kefir with some blueberries and almonds. And I have this protein powder I put in there that I love. It's delicious, and I mix it all up so it gets thick. And it's like one of my favorite breakfasts. And strawberries are, I would say, a mainstay in my life. They're huge. I make a kombucha drink with them. I have this one drink, and I absolutely love it. We went on a cruise not too long ago. Well, actually, it was probably 4 years ago. And that we went to they had this little excursion. It was called Salsa, and I loved it. You made guacamole, and they had margaritas, and it was all about making these special guacamole and salsas. It was salsa too. And boy, I loved that class. Of course, I would take a cooking class on an island, but it was on this beautiful location in Cozumel, Mexico, and they made this drink, and I loved it. And I don't really drink alcohol, but I went home and I substituted kombucha for the tequila, and I make this drink all the time, and it's so simple. And what I do is I take strawberries, like a cup of strawberries, and then a cup of ice, and then 4 ounces of kombucha, and I squeeze like a half of a lime into it. And then I take Celtic sea salt, and I take the lime and run it around the rim of my glass and dip it in Celtic sea salt to get the salt on the glass. And then I mix the strawberries, the ice, the kombucha, and I put a little stevia in it and some lime juice. Whirl it all up in a blender, and it is like one of my favorite drinks. I do it a lot in the afternoon, and I always do it in the summertime. But it's my like non-alcoholic version of frozen margarita. It really kind of is like a strawberry daiquiri or something, but I don't really like the alcohol, so I just replaced it with kombucha. And boy, if you want to drink, you need to try that because it's so good for you. Okay, blueberries. I learned a long time ago that it was a good idea to eat a lot of blueberries. They helped me a lot when I was a younger woman and would get like urinary tract infections, and I would eat a bunch of them. Blueberries and cranberries do similar things that help prevent and keep you from getting UTIs. And it was fantastic how fast blueberries would work for me. And they would help. They have this protective coating that will line the inside of the urethra that keeps pathogens from attacking it and creating a urinary infection. And it puts a protective coating around the outside wall. And so I would just have at least a cup of blueberries a day whenever I was struggling with that. And I just became a really big habit. And I have them all the time right now because they're really good. They're in season here too. And I think they're kind of, anytime you get a food that's dark purple, anytime you see a fruit or vegetable that's that dark bluish, purplish color, it has higher levels of antioxidants in it. And it's so good for you. And you really need to include some of it in your diet because things like purple cabbage, blueberries, eggplant, dark grapes, they're all higher in the antioxidant. Even like if you haven't seen these, blue potatoes are better for you. By the way, they're delicious. I just had some of those the other day. They just have more antioxidants in them, and they're so good for you. Dark leafy greens that are, was it ridiculous? No, I don't think that's purple. I can't remember what the purple one is in the lettuce, but there's a really good one that I like to throw in my lettuce that really helps. Gives you a lot of protection, not just in antioxidants, but in that when the darker the color is, the more nutrients you're going to get for your body. And so including blueberries in my life is just, I do it all the time because I love it. Okay, apples. Let's talk about apples. They're wonderful. They give me a pickup. If you ever have a mid-afternoon slump when you're feeling tired and lethargic, often it's your blood sugar dropping and adrenals crashing, and you need a little help keeping those glucose numbers stable in the afternoon. And the properties that are found in apples can help you tremendously. They clear sugar from your bloodstream, and help to activate the muscle cell and insulin receptors that will keep your blood sugar levels in a better balance. And I didn't know that about apples until I started researching them more. And I really found that like an apple, if you're feeling low and low on energy, I'll cut up an apple and I'll sprinkle some cinnamon on it and eat it, and it will just pick you up in no time at all. And muscle cells are glucose hogs. They continuously need an uptake of sugar from your bloodstream in order to function and keep you moving throughout the day. So if you have an apple and your blood sugar low is dipping, or you're feeling tired in the afternoon because your adrenals are a little taxed, uh, grab an apple and watch what happens. Eat an apple. I mean, it's so funny. We used to go to the lake a lot. We had a boat on the lake, and I would eat apples. My husband and I always ate a lot of apples. And they would laugh at us because nowadays people just don't eat apples. And I would be like, you guys don't eat apples? Because they were, used to eating Doritos and just junk food. And it was just, they would think it was funny because we were always eating apples. And I thought, isn't that sad that nowadays people forget how one of nature's perfect foods is so available for us, and it's so easy to eat, and it's so handy, and you can hold it in one hand. And one of the best things I think we ever did was teach our kids to eat apples too. That's just something my family has always done, especially Holly. She loves to go eat apples and cut them up, and that's one of her favorite things. But it really does help keep your body in balance. I mean, the old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, there's real wisdom in that. There's pectins and things in apples that aren't in other fruits and vegetables that are really, really good for you if you're looking to balance your body. Okay, so now one of my favorite foods, watermelon. They are so wonderful, and especially they help with hydration because they're mostly made out of water. And we need a lot of water to keep our lymph system clearing us and cleansing us. And watermelon is so fantastic for this. The lycopene in watermelon makes it a very anti-inflammatory fruit, and it can cool down inflammation in the body. And that's a really important thing. Nowadays, they're finding more and more that we shouldn't worry so much there's cholesterol problems everywhere and everybody's going on statins, but they're finding that the real problems for heart disease and cholesterol problems is inflammation in the body. And the body's just inflamed all the time, and we just don't know it because, we're not aware of it. And watermelon is fantastic for helping the body to cool itself, helping it to cool itself down. Watermelon contains fiber, which encourages a healthy digestive tract. It feeds your microbiome and helps keep you regular. And it really doesn't seem to mess with your blood sugar because it seems to be so much water in there, which also helps regulate your blood sugar. Keeping really hydrated will keep your blood sugar nice and stable. And I know this because I grew up with a lot of type 1 diabetes in my family. And I would always hear the family members that had this, because they had it since they were young, like 7 years old. And there were two family members that, a niece and then my sister, and she always told me that watermelon would never bump up her blood sugar. It always kept her healthy. And so that and cantaloupe, but watermelon seemed to be the best. She said she never had to give herself insulin because watermelon just seemed to naturally keep her blood sugar in balance. And so I always remembered that, and I always felt better when I had a lot of watermelon. And so that was always a big thing in our house, especially in the summertime. I have an ebook out. It's a summer ebook for my Bodic Pro members. And if you don't know what my Bodic Pro membership is, it's a really cool membership that we have on our website. And it teaches you how to make these foods. We've got lessons and courses and videos and special recipes and ebooks. And we got all kinds of things just for members, a live chat and meal planning and things like that. And I put out a new ebook every month. And in the summertime, I put out a summer ebook, which is probably one of my most popular ebooks. And the recipes are fantastic. And I have a watermelon pico in there that you just got to try. It's out of this world. I love it. I'm waiting for watermelons I've seen them at the store, but sometimes if I get them too early, I'm disappointed. So I'm waiting a little bit. And my brother-in-law taught me that when you're picking a watermelon, you should always look at the bottom of it. And if how it has the lines, the watermelon has the lines all over it. Well, the line should be broken, and that's how you can tell that it's a good watermelon. It's sweet, and that has never steered me wrong. So I'm kind of waiting for the watermelons to get that way. That means they've been sitting on the ground and they've gotten sweeter and they will taste better if you follow that little guideline. And I have that watermelon pico recipe that I'm dying to make here, and I'm going to wait a couple more weeks. But boy, it's fantastic. And then I have watermelon kefir is terrific too. If you have some watermelon at home, blend it into a smoothie with some kefir, and oh my gosh, it's so fantastic. It's one of my favorite drinks. So is a cantaloupe too. Cantaloupe is good too, with some kefir and to mix. It's such a simple thing. Here's my thing. I think everybody should drink smoothies every day. It's just the fastest way to get breakfast, and it is just the best way I start my day. I mean, once I have a smoothie, I can't tell you what a habit that's become for me. It's just one of my favorite things to have in the morning. It's something I have almost every single day. It's easy, it's fast. I mean, I'm telling you, if you're going to go to a drive-through, you can make a smoothie a lot faster, and it's a lot better for you. And the more you have them, the more you'll crave fruits and veggies. And the more you have kefir smoothies, the more it will reset your taste buds to crave them. And it's just a fantastic way to start your day and to reset your body to want healthy foods. I make all these foods, and I love to make fruits and veggies into cultured veggies in the summertime. And what that does is I take the fresh vegetables that are available and I culture them. And basically, you're just chopping vegetables, placing them in the jar with a culture and some salt, and you let them ferment. And you've got fantastic foods that are cultured. They make your digestion superior. It's going to change your life so much. I mean, I make pickles. I just got some fresh cabbage from the farmer's market last night. I'm going to make some, I have a strawberry kraut that I make and a blueberry kraut that I make. And I love some picos. I love some fermented picos and salsas. And this is the time of year to start making some cultured vegetables. And they can last like 9 months in your fridge. And everything's at its peak, so freshness, and it's so good for you. And it will help you to get more nutrients from your food. Anytime you eat a cultured food, whether it's kombucha, kefir, or cultured vegetables, it's going to help you digest the food you eat with it. And this is the perfect time of year to start experimenting because everything's in season, and it's fun and easy to make. And I love how incredible it makes me feel. And I love how easy it is because I don't like to do a lot of cooking in the summertime, although we do. I like easy things. Like this afternoon for lunch, okay, I've got some probiotic guacamole that I make. And basically all I'm doing is making guacamole and adding kefir cheese to it because it keeps it green too. It keeps the guacamole green. And I have a pico salt. I have a pico in my refrigerator, a fermented pico, and I'm going to mix it with pinto beans to make a pinto dish. And that's going to be my lunch because that's what I do. I love that stuff. And then have a glass of kombucha. That's like super easy because I don't like to do a lot of cooking in the summer. So I do a lot of these types of foods and they're delicious and you will love them. And I have a bunch of different pico recipes and I've got some new ones in my ebook, my summer ebook for members if you want to check that out. Guys, it's so fun to do these different foods. You will sleep better. You won't believe how much better you will feel all the time. I went out the other day. I think we went out on some jet skis with my son-in-law and my son, and we'd been out on the sun all day, and we were just having a blast out there. But at 3:00, I felt my adrenals crash, and it was I had been up the night before really late. I'd been up till 1:30, I think, or 2. And I was tired. I'd swum all day, and right off the beach in Oceanside, California, where we live, not too far from where we live,